Hello everyone, Mr. Happy here, and in this video we're going to be going over the information that was revealed at the Live Letter 20. This aired April 10th, 2015 at 6:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So this was a live letter that we were all highly anticipating. There was the opening movie for Heavensward, which was shown right at the front. I'm not going to play it over this video right now. I want you to go check that out on the PlayStation channel. I'm not sure if it's on the Final Fantasy XIV channel just yet, but it was posted on the PlayStation channel. So there's a link for that in the description of the video below. There's also a Twitch past broadcast that I'm going to include that had a brief showing of about a minute of the benchmark footage. So if you want to check that out there as well. So this is the unofficial translation. There were quite a few unofficial translations that were going on. We have Marko did one live, which was great. Thank you so much for doing that for us on the Twitch live stream. Sig did one as well. He's been doing them a lot before in the past since Reinhardt had to step down. So Sig, thank you as well. Both of those are on the official Dream Network forums, which are in the description of the video as well. But anyway, let's get into what was actually spoken about. So I have 8 pages worth of notes here, and as you can see, watch the damn cutscene. They were talking to each other about our shirts. Now, despite a Q&A session being planned for this live letter, there wasn't much Q&A. They actually apologized for this on the forums and said all the questions that they reserved for this event are actually going to be included in the next producer live letter. So please look forward to that. Your questions from before will be available again, and on top of that, you will be able to ask questions for the next producer live letter as well. So they had a lot of slides for this, so the translations went really smooth. Dragon Song War, the new main story quest, is going to be about 50 hours of gameplay, which is roughly the same size as Realm Reborn, if you don't skip the cutscenes. New story in each subsequent patch, we all knew that. A big thing they answered, you won't need to finish any special quests to get to level 51. They're answering that, as I noted, probably an answer for Final Fantasy XI players, so don't worry about that. So they also brought up the ARR, and they just explained that they're going to be divided into 2 different kinds. You know, every race already has that, like Plainsfolk and Dunesfolk for Lalafell. The 2 types are called the Rarain and the Zayla. Now, on the official forums, they posted a quick background about these 2 types of ARR. So if you're interested in that, go check it out. Side quests, new job quests are going to be taking place from 30 to 60, and when I say new job, I mean Dark Knight, Machinist, Astrologian. It was confirmed later on that the new jobs are going to be starting at level 30, so they're going to have job quests from 30 to 60. Also, existing jobs are going to get level 50 to 60 quests. Now, they showed off a few screenshots here. I've been playing those over this translation, you know, since it was relevant. And on top of that, new Disciple of the Hand and Land quests from 50 to 60. Now, I'm going to talk about those existing job quests because there's a lot more to talk about with that. But first, let's get to some of the other things they announced. So there's 9 new areas being added to the expansion, and each area is about 50 to 100% larger than the existing one, so up to double the size. So less zones, bigger areas, pretty important. New fates, new mounts that you can ride in those areas. And then they showed off flying mounts. Flying mounts are going to have unrestricted landing and takeoff, full control in the air. On the ground, they have 90% speed, but they said it's 0.9 modifier on their internal testing. So I don't know if that means it's 90% of a normal ground mount speed, so about 10% slower than a regular ground mount. But they go 200% that speed when flying, and they may even increase it more later on. We'll have to see. Now, flight is not automatically available for every zone. It's not like you unlock the ability to fly and you're good to go. Every single zone requires that you actually unlock the ability to fly for that zone. So, you can't just unlock it once and be done. Every single zone is going to require you to do some form of unlocking. They didn't say what, just something. Flight is possible in all the new Heavensward areas except for Ishgard, so not Ishgard. And it's also not possible in the old world content. They said they might do it in the future, but it's not on their current list. They're more focused on expanding new areas than going back to the old ones. So they quickly showed off some new gameplay stuff. They showed a Dark Knight on a Griffin mount. The Griffin mount looks way better in-game every time they show it. They showed off some area. They displayed a little bit of the flying controls, how high you can go in certain zones. When you hit the sort of edge of the zone, it'll show you a little barrier, let you know you can't go any further. Also, one thing they spoke about, company chocobos will be capable of flight, so you can level with your companion and mount it up to fly around the zones. You're not required to have one of the new mounts. They're also planning on implementing flying into some of the older mounts from 2.0. 2 that were mentioned on the official forums were the bomb mount, the Parlequin, and the Ariman mount. So they said they are planning it, but it's not for 3.0. It'll be a patch after that, where some of our older mounts are going to be able to actually fly in Heavensward. There's also no enemies in the sky while they were talking about flying. If an enemy aggroes you on the ground, you can actually fly to get away from it. So just be on the lookout for that as well. Let me see if there was a quick translation about, if there's any sort of other stipulation about enemies. Enemies will aggro you, and when you are taking off, it will be possible for them to hit you, but enemies haven't been placed in the sky, so they'll be able to safely fly away. That's what it says officially. So battle system updates, they showed off some new weapon skills, just 2 screenshots. One of them was like a paladin weapon skill. Okay, so here's where they started doing like the job and the new ability announcements. This is where they announced the new jobs will be starting at level 30. They said the main story quests are going to start after level 50. So from 30 to 50 on the new jobs, you won't have main story quests to level them on. So that's going to be another thing you have to deal with. The new actions, by the way, are all going to be gotten through job quests. There are going to be no new actions gotten strictly through leveling for battle jobs. So the thing is, we don't know if the job quests are going to be every 5 levels still. There's a good chance they could be every 2 levels as opposed to every 5. So they didn't tell us any information about that. So just know that you don't get them through leveling, you get them strictly through quests. And even more interesting is that it's specifically job abilities, no new class abilities. So they really are moving away from classes as a thing. Unique limit break 3s for every job, although the existing ones are going to be distributed, you know, Monk getting Final Heaven, Black Mage getting Meteor. The Dragoon LB3 we're going to see in the benchmark, which comes out later this month, but they didn't give an exact date. There was some new armor that was shown off, some other new equipment. They tried to show it off on stream, but the camera wasn't very good for it, so they actually are posting the screenshots to a blog later. I don't know when that's going to be. It might be before this video is done being recorded, edited, but it'll be there later. When they come out, I'll include it in the description of the video. They announced new Allegan Tombstones, Allegan Tombstones of Law, which are going to replace Soldiery. They're going to have no weekly limit at all. And Allegan Tombstones of Esoterics, which do have the weekly limit, basically replacing our Poetics. Now, there is another thing about Esoterics, but I'm going to mention that a little bit later on. We're going to come back to Esoterics. Disciples of Hand are going to have their level cap raised. Everything has their level cap raised. I don't need to say that. So, but unlike the battle classes, you actually do get new abilities through leveling Disciples of Hand and Land. So, don't worry about that. There's going to be new recipes. They're planning grade 5 materia, but it may not be ready in time for the expansion launch. So we'll see. It's going to happen, but just maybe not right away. Now, they're also implementing the specialist system. We knew about this, and you can start accessing it at level 55. So you can become a specialist for up to 3 classes. And the way the specialist system is actually supposed to work is they don't want it so that everyone has to level every crafting to 60 if you want to be a crafter for one specific job. So the specialist system actually rewards you an ability that you can't access with any other specialist. Like if you're a specialist in blacksmith, goldsmith, and armor, well, armor is so armor, goldsmith, and culinarian, you have a specialist ability for each of those 3, but you don't have access to any of the specialist abilities from the other ones. So keep that in mind. It's basically there so you don't have to level everything to 60 if you don't want to. It's also going to require scripts to change specialization. That's a new currency. We're going to be going over that in a little bit as well. So when I mention scripts, just know we're going to come back to that later. It's not required to be a specialist for leveling, but you can, like I said, access it at level 55. Disciples of Land, new actions, level cap raise, new treasure hunts, new gathering points, new fishing holes, all that stuff is standard. But they're also implementing 2 new systems, the favor system and regional folklore. So the favor system is actually, the way it works is, you can get these buffs called favors, and they last for a limited time. And when you go to a specific node, it unlocks nodes around the world. Depending on what favor buff you have, will change what you're able to gather. So it means that you kind of have to pick and choose what buff you want to depend on what it is you want to gather. And same thing, you trade scripts for favors. We'll mention those in a little bit. Regional Folklore is another system being added. It's for higher level Disciple of Land items, and it's similar to the Master Book system. So just take that and implement it into a gathering, and you'll probably have an idea of how Regional Folklore is going to work for accessing these higher Disciple of Land items. So these are updates that are coming to both Disciples of Hand and Land next. So they're adding collectibles at level 55 and above, where you can actually get these rare items that are different from high quality items. It's a higher quality than high quality, and you can trade those in for scripts and experience points. So it's something you're definitely going to want to start doing from 55 to 60 to help level it up. It's going to be a little bit different. They didn't go too much into detail. We'll probably have more information about collectibles in the future. And also, when you hit level 60 on your crafters and gatherers, you can start grinding scripts. You have red scripts and blue scripts, and then red gatherer scripts and blue gatherer scripts. These are basically tombstones for crafters and gatherers. Now, so the whole point of these is that you can progress the old-fashioned way. You can still do your crafters and gatherers the old-fashioned way, where you buy a bunch of gear, you do max materia melds, and you start crafting immediately. But if you're someone who doesn't have the resources, the money, the, the access to the materials, the patience to really do that, you can instead take time and gear up using scripts. Because there's the weekly limit and the no limit, it's almost like gear progression, exactly like the battle classes have it, except it's for crafters and gatherers. So keep that in mind. It's not mandatory, but you're probably going to end up farming a lot of scripts regardless of what you do. There's new high-level leaves to use for leveling up. There's new high-level fates that you can use for leveling up. And there's going to be more large-scale fates like Behemoth and Odin being added into the game. There's going to be new enemies, new hunts, and there's going to be 8 new dungeons when the expansion first launches. So there's no confirmation. This is speculation right now, but if I had to guess, 52, 54, 56, or no, 50, 52, 53, 5 dungeons leveling up and 3 dungeons at max level. That's my guess. Maybe it's 51, 53, 55, 57. Who knows? But that's my guess. But 8 total new dungeons when the expansion launches. Alexander is going to have 2 difficulties. We already knew this, but they're calling the hard mode of Alexander Savage. So it is Alexander Savage, not Alexander Hard. The new primals, Ravana and Bismarck, are going to have a normal and a hard difficulty when the expansion launches. What we don't know is if the hard mode is replacing extremes and they're just doing normal and story. So we don't know yet, but we know they announced 2 difficulties, normal and hard. And they also said that you'll be able to fall to your death like in Titan. So prepare to have fun with that. They announced a new PvP map. They didn't give us the name, but a new map with a new rule set and new rewards. They tried to show off the PvP gear again, but the camera was crappy, so that'll be on the blog later as well. They briefly went over crafting, company crafting and housing. This is information I've already made videos about before. They didn't really do anything new here. Need to get the workshop installed with Gil. We knew this. They explained how free company airships work, having the 4 airships with the 4 different parts. And it's been explained in more detail in a lot more recent interviews, so I'm not going to go into that here. You can explore the skies with the airships. You have expeditionary voyages, which will be available in 3.0. And that's like going out and discovering new areas with these airships that we have. The system's going to be expanded in the 3.x patches. And that's where you're going to be able to like go to the islands and fight bosses and gather materials and things like that. And also there are going to be new furnishings for your houses in case you want to glamour them up a little bit more. As for content updates, new ventures, retainer levels being increased. Now, they said new challenge logs. That's what it said in Japanese, and that's the way they were describing it. But the English on the slide said new sightseeing log. Everyone's chalking this up to a mistranslation or just a typo. But I'm going to say new challenge logs, maybe new sightseeing logs. I wouldn't mind that. I'm okay with that. They're going to be adding market boards to Ishgard. There's going to be 20 new triple triad cards. And there are going to be content adjustments to 2.0 stuff, like adding more Echo for whatever reason. They're going to continue to adjust 2.0 content. Maybe minimum item levels, things like that. They didn't go too much into detail. Then they have a few new system updates. So you're going to be able to do dungeons with less than the required number of people now. There's going to be a checkbox to enter a dungeon with a smaller party. So I'm actually kind of curious about that because it means that more Duty Finder servers are going to be required. But it's there. It's a feature. They're advertising it. It'll be there. There's going to be new roulettes. There's going to be new types of roulettes, new conditions in the roulettes. And they're actually going to be adding an optional item sync or eye level sync for specific dungeons. So what you can do is there's another checkbox, another one. And if you turn it on, it'll make everyone's item level equal to the minimum required to enter a piece of content. So it's really for time attack challenges or just to see what it was like doing content when it was originally implemented. So they understand that people want to preserve that and they're leaving it in as an optional means of going back. The loot system is being expanded. There's going to be different gear for Alexander Normal and Savage. And on top of that, the primals are going to see a loot system that was more similar to the 1.0 way it worked. So basically every time you kill a hard mode primal, it's going to give you a token. And after you collect a certain amount of tokens, you can trade them in for an item. That way, if you grind it for hours and hours and hours, you never see your weapon drop, don't worry, you're going to be able to get it anyway. I had some people telling me that they said that items themselves are going to be removed from the fight and it's all going to be tokens. But I don't know. It seemed like some people were 50-50 about that. So if you know more, if they did say that, put it in the comment section of the video below. They're also adding 2 new types of loot systems, the Loot Master system and the All Greed system. The Loot Master system enables the party leader to distribute the loot as opposed to it always being need, greed, pass. This is very common in more organized raid groups, and it is an optional means of distributing the loot. It's only available for pre-made parties, and it's optional, so it's not mandatory. The other system that's going to be optional and only for pre-made parties is the All Greed system, where nobody's allowed to need on anything. Everyone has to greed if they actually want to roll on it. So that prevents people from needing stuff for farm groups and whatnot. They're also adding a system where if you press need or greed, but you decide, hey, I don't want this item, never mind, let me pass it. You're going to be able to pass even if you've already rolled need or greed. Doesn't work the other way around. You can't pass on something, be like, oh shit, I wanted that, and then go back and need it, but it at least works one way. They also talked about distributing the DX11 client. It's going to be free. It's optional for PCs, and it's going to be a separate client. So you're going to have to download it separately from the current client that you have. So then they got into content releases, and this is really the last big thing they spoke about. June 19th, early access, we know. June 23rd, Heavensward launch, we know. 2 weeks after that, Alexander normal mode will open. We knew this. But then they stated the way that Alexander normal mode is going to work, there's no weekly lockout on the raid itself. You're going to be able to do it as many times as you want. However, it is going to have a CT-esque loot lockout system where you obtain your one piece of loot, and that's it. Now, I had people telling me different things here. I had one person tell me that it's each turn has a weekly lockout, but then I had a lot more people telling me that it's across all the turns that you have this one weekly lockout. I need confirmation on that. So there was confirmation of it, sort of like it on the Japanese forum. I'll have to check it out, but that's just what my notes say. And then 2 weeks after normal mode launches, Savage Alexander will launch. So Savage Alexander doesn't launch till a month after the game comes out. But on top of that, Tomestones of Esoterics actually won't be available until that 4-week mark. So you won't have weekly caps to reach for the first month of the game. The scripts they didn't mention, the scripts may still be available there to weekly cap, but you won't be able to cap Esoterics or get Esoterics gear at all before 4 weeks after the game launches. And also the Frontlines map is not going to be available until that 1 month time after the game launches. So a lot of information to take in here. Be sure to check out the official translation. Let me see if there's anything in particular that I missed from the official one. I'm going to be using all the slides they have here. So it's going to be very, very important that I actually read it all. Yeah, they're explaining the script system, collectible system. Until now, the idea of 8 NQ and HQ is strong, so this time you'll be asked to create items specific to of specific values, whatnot. Yep. You can use it to level from 55 onward. Details of the specialist system. Yeah, it's all the same stuff with a lot of screenshots. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Be sure to go check out the Heavensward opening movie trailer. Be sure to go check out the Flames of Truth if you want to see End of an Era plus the Turn 12 cutscene, which they showed after that. And then they did do... They had a few guests on the show. They had Soken and they had the guy who created all the cutscenes for the game. There wasn't any new information. They were just talking about their jobs, how much fun they had, how much they enjoy it, how they do it, all that fun stuff. And then they did a few announcements about Nico Nico Chokaigi. That's going to be later this month, and that's all we really know. So thank you for watching. Go check out all those cutscenes. Be sure to check out the Dream Network forums for the official translations and unofficial translations as well. But thank you everyone for watching. I'll see you guys next time. And until then, take care.